won't hold us back, raising awareness through every track. All-Star PD Sportscast on the rise, shouting loud, reaching the skies. Can't stop, won't stop, our game is strong, fighting Parkinson's all day long.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited today, as I always am, but even more because I get to spend more time with my buddy here, Tim, and I want to welcome you all to All-Star PD Sportscast, where my host here, right to this side, it's this way, Tim, my PD party, and someone who, ironically, I just got a Facebook reminder that's been a year since we met, and it's amazing how much we've accomplished in just a year, but how much more is still yet to come. So I wanted to welcome back Tim, and thanks for joining me. I'm Sharon's son, George, Dr. George Ackerman, and in this show, we discuss the world of sports and slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease. I want to send the show to Tim for a welcome.
Hey guys, what is shaking? You bring up something very important, George. You just said how this is kind of like our 1 year anniversary, and it might not seem like much, but to a guy that when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's didn't know what the next day was going to bring him or the immediate future, it just proves to me that we've done a lot of good things in a year, and there's many more years ahead to do it. I'm very excited about today's show. My two of my three boys play soccer at a high level. I think we have a very high level person to speak to here. Not only just because of his soccer IQ, but his tag is elevate others. That's his page. And I got to tell you, this man, I don't know how he does it. I don't know if he's like the great Karnak, but it seems like every day, every time that I'm going through a really rough patch, I get a message from this man, and it wakes me up, and he shows a bunch of positivity my way, and that's what this community is all about. I'm so excited to have him on here.
Well, I want to thank you for that welcome. Also want to thank Tim for this beautiful hat. I wear it all the time and I was excited today to do that. But with that, with those incredible words of inspiration, I want to welcome you, Coach, to the show. And really, if you could just tell everyone a little bit about yourself. And I played my career in basketball world and soccer too in high school, but after seeing how far the field was that was the end of it for me. So I admire you, Tim, his kids, and again, we hope that when they're famous in the professional world in the Olympics too, that they let us have a show there. That would be fun.
There you go. There you go. Well, hey, thank you guys for having me. It's truly an honor to be with you guys. I really appreciate you, George and Tim, for all you guys do for advocacy for Parkinson's. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in December of 2023, and so not too long ago. And didn't know what the world was going to hold for me. Didn't know much about the disease and the progressions and treatments and what you can do to slow things down. So I hit the social media and found some people that I could follow to learn from, and you guys were right up there at the top of the list of people that I've been following for a while now. So really honored to be with you guys. A little bit about me. I'm 51 years old, so I got considered in that class of the young onset Parkinson's disease, which I was kind of excited about. They use the word young.
Yeah.
With me, so that was fun. Soccer's been my life. I grew up playing soccer. I didn't really do much else in life. Barely got through academics. Just played high school soccer, club soccer, college soccer. Had a bad injury that ended my playing career. Got right into coaching soccer, and it's been my career now for 30 years. Something I'm passionate about. I love helping others. Helping people, achieve their goals or reach goals they didn't think were possible. And now it's interesting because, now I have this lovely disease called Parkinson's, and the things that I've been teaching my players to do for a long time, now I actually got to teach myself to do. So it's a great combination of, the love and passion for the game and everything that it's taught me before, and now it's teaching me even more now.
Now, Coach, let me ask you, because you bring up something very, very poignant there. Going back, somebody who is obviously an ex-player, you have a tremendous soccer IQ. Talk to me a little bit about your diagnosis. What were your signs? Like, what were you feeling? And when you got diagnosed, what was your immediate reaction as far as, oh no, how is this going to affect my love of soccer and what I do? I mean,
yeah, definitely. It was, so prior to my diagnosis, I could feel my body slowing down. So I have what the technical term of bradykinesia,
yeah,
the slowness of movement. So that was going on. uh, especially with my hands. I'd walk a little bit hunched over and kind of shuffle my feet a little bit.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you guys, the crazy part, and my partner, she'll tell you, I tell her this all the time, like I just thought I was getting old. I just thought this was, because I was a Division I athlete. I beat my body up. I didn't take care of myself after I got done playing. And so I thought this was just my way of getting old. Um, then one day, Kristen and I went for a hike, and not a strenuous hike, just a normal hike. And midway through, guys, I had to like stop and sit down. Like I was just completely wiped out. And I know what fatigue normally feels like from a fitness standpoint, and this was completely different. It really freaked me out. So the next day, I made a phone call, got an appointment to my general doctor. Told him my symptoms of the bradykinesia, the fatigue, the muscle rigidity. I was really, really tight. Um, and he did the normal tests and all the fun stuff. And I think you
Real
have
high tech stuff.
yeah. I think you have Parkinson's, and we need to get you to see a neurologist. So I was like, what? Because in my mind, when I think of Parkinson's, I literally just think of Michael J. Fox, think of Muhammad Ali. Those are literally the only two people in my life that I've seen with Parkinson's. And I was like, I don't have tremors. I don't have anything like they have. I was like, how do I have Parkinson's? Go to the neurologist, do some more high level tests, and they're like, yeah, you have Parkinson's. Let's do a DAT scan to confirm everything. And 100% DAT scan was, completely conclusive that I had Parkinson's. And so from there, it was definitely a whirlwind of emotions. The sadness comes into play, obviously, because you're thinking about what's my life going to be like, the unknown, the fear, how quickly is this going to progress and take over my body? How am I going to handle this? And like you said, Tim, like how's this going to affect my coaching career?
Yeah.
So that was a big fear of mine.
But I will also say, Coach, not to cut you off, in this community, which I think is enormous, I think we can all agree is enormous, as far as trying to beat this disease, is not feeling alone. You are one of the most positive people I've come across. And I thank God for that every day, that I have people like you in my life, even just to send a message or see how I'm doing. Were you always like that? Or is this something that Parkinson's may have kind of took out of you? Or have you just always been like a really positive person like that?
I certainly can't say I was always a positive person. I was a jerk. I was a competitive athlete. I didn't care
We
about
all are.
anything. So I can't say that I was real positive all the time. Um, but yeah, certainly within the past 10 years, it's been more towards that way, as I matured in my coaching career and truly understood the value of what I can bring to an athlete's life and a team's setting. But then, over the past few years in particular, before I was diagnosed, I got introduced to a guy named Travis Thomas, who you and I have talked about a little bit. And he started working with some of my teams, and he wrote a book called Live, Yes, and it's a great book that just really describes the idea that, we have this event in our life, whatever it might be. So we'll take Parkinson's. We have Parkinson's and that we get diagnosed with, and it's like, okay, yes, we accept the fact that I have this disease. And now what?
Right.
What are you going to do about that? Are you going to wallow in it and just, mope and complain and just not live a life to your fullest? Or are you going to try and make the best of everything that comes your way? And so, I just started working on making the most of everything that comes my way. And, there's another great guy named Tim Kite who says E plus R equals O. So you have your event plus your response equals your outcome. So it just these things have just been through my life over the past 5 years in particular that I really lived out and started really getting into making sure I'm bringing other people up, lifting other people's lives up. So came up with the hashtag Elevate Others, and I truly try and live that out every single day. And now with Parkinson's, it's like, well, I still get the opportunity to live that out. I tell my players all the time, where your mind goes, your body flows. Where your mind goes, your body flows.
Love it.
So, everything that we think about, everything that goes on up here, transcends into our body. And so even with somebody with Parkinson's, I have the ability to have positive thoughts and to move forward in a positive way. And that reaction, I'm much happier and, I wouldn't say I'm healing my disease by any stretch of the imagination,
You're healing the mind.
but I'm managing it much better. Yeah.
Great.
I want to thank you for sharing that and also for being such an inspiration to so many, hopefully now through the show, through the world, not just in the US, but obviously the show, something we focus, which I want to touch on with you, was how we can slow the progression of Parkinson's. I've done some research with Tim, and we found that obviously many sports have benefits, but there's also risks. Some of the benefits have shown to be improving mobility and balance, reduce fall risk, and obviously social interaction. But some of the downfall is again, injury, freezing, and also the risk of neurodegenerative disease. Want to know your take on some of the areas, whether as a player yourself, I know you're not fully playing maybe now, but
No.
I'm just curious what you think of if you were, how it might slow the progression. Also, as a coach with maybe someone else out there who still wants to play. Obviously, me and Tim talked earlier how I lived and played basketball my whole life, but I'm going to be 50 soon, and I think it's time, almost unfortunately, to maybe play the video game version. But um, yeah, I was wondering on your touch, if you could touch on, and then I wanted to just share a few links, and then because there's so many important things too that you're doing, and I've actually located and excited that you're really so active on social media. But before I show a few articles, maybe you could touch on, your lived experience on if you think that, there's no wrong or right answer because we did a show on football, and now most of it really is just how it actually can decline here, So that's interesting. We know we try to cover every sport no matter what, but soccer does seem to me to be many positives.
Yeah, it's interesting. To be honest with you, I haven't thought about how playing soccer could help, someone with Parkinson's, to help with that. But you're exactly right. The increase in mobility, the moving around, the agility. I definitely find that exercise helps me out a lot. When I'm able to be out there coaching and be able to be really active and moving around the field, it really helps me. But whenever I try to jump in and play and interact with the team, I know that freezing of gait that has been a nemesis of mine now comes into play a little too much when I try to do lateral movements. And so, for me, I try not to engage too much in that because I don't want to fall and hurt myself or fall
Right.
and hurt one of the players that I'm working with or anything like that. So I've learned to just coach from a different angle, from a different lens. Um, but yeah, so one of the sports that we are trying to pick up, my partner and I, Kristen, is playing pickleball. It, because that's a smaller space, but you're still getting into working side to side, the angles of your movement, the power, the hand-eye coordination, working on your balance. So yeah, so I think anything that you can find in a safe manner where you can work on your balance and work on your strength, work on your stamina, your fitness. Like especially for me, where fatigue is such a negative. No, sorry, I shouldn't say negative. It's such a huge symptom of mine that I have is the muscle fatigue. That the more that I can work out, the better I'm going to be in the long run for sure.
Coach, were you, and this is kind of me jumping back to the other question I asked you. When you got diagnosed and your physical symptoms started happening, again, you're not a rec coach. You're extremely high level coach. Were you a little concerned about like not getting job opportunities and like what people were gonna on a soccer level were gonna think of you?
100,000%.
Might have
I'm sorry, say it again.
like any kind of physical limitations that you might have that might present the problem for them. I mean, did that go into your train of thought?
It definitely went through my mind, but it's more like the stigma that people think someone with Parkinson's displays. Because you guys know that as well as I do that there are millions of people out there with Parkinson's that have fully functioning lives, are great in their careers and are doing fantastic stuff. But there's a stigma out there that you have Parkinson's, you can't do things. And that's definitely a fear of mine for sure. Now, thankfully, the job I just got hired at with FC Richmond, I was very upfront with the directors, the technical directors who hired me, about Parkinson's, about my symptoms, about everything. And they were so welcoming, so understanding of it. And they're just such a great support system for me. But yeah, so it's definitely a fear of mine. And, to be honest with you, Tim and George, I know one day it's going to happen. I'm not naive to the fact that, it could be 10, 15 years down the road that I won't be able to, be a coach anymore because of Parkinson's. But, I'm going to fight the battle as long as I can to prolong that day from coming for sure.
And can I ask you, Coach, and this is maybe walking not a gray area here, but like George said, we had these conversations with football. Like I said, I have two of my three boys play at a pretty high level. One's in college. He's a goalkeeper. My youngest son, who's going to be a senior in high school, is a center back. So from different areas, so to speak, I have different concerns. I mean, listen, my son was a goalkeeper. Any kind of corner kicks or free kicks, I mean, it's like a suicide mission, like a kickoff in football. Take some serious hits.
Yeah.
As a center back, my son's very physical and very tall, so there's a lot of heading out.
Yep.
And this might be a question that has no answer. I mean, is there anything you could advise kids? I mean, like I'm always telling my one son, try and chest it if you can, as opposed to heading it out. But when you play at that level, you just can't forget everything you were taught. I mean, do you think there's any correlation between like
I do.
head balls and concussions and any kind of Parkinson's issues there?
I do, and I can't remember the name of the neurologist that I listened to a podcast from literally just a few weeks ago, where they were talking about the correlation between head injury, head trauma, and Parkinson's. New stuff that's coming out right now about it, and I was a definite combative player growing up, and so I was very physical, challenging balls in the air. I was a forward, so I was the guy that your son was trying to tackle all the time and trying to head balls from and stuff like that. So the biggest advice I would have to anybody playing today is understand how to head the ball properly. You know, head the ball properly with the front of your forehead, not the side of your head, not the back of your head, not the top of your head, but making sure when you're heading the ball, head it properly with the forehead and get your arms up. Get your arms up to protect yourself. So if somebody's coming in from your side,
Create a little space.
able to protect yourself. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend to him. But yeah, because even you look at somebody like, Brett Favre, now diagnosed with Parkinson's, football player, head injuries all the time. And there could be a correlation between the two. And my uneducated self, I do believe there is.
It's funny, like I'll tell my youngest too, who, like I said, is a center back. Bobby, when the balls are coming at you, can you chest it, not head it? And I get that because I want him to play with his feet more too.
Right.
But like you said, you can't take the competitor out of the athlete. When the ball's up in the air and it's his job to clear it, he's got to be higher than the next guy. And you're not.
Absolutely.
It's a shame.
Yep.
Part of the game.
It is, unfortunately. It is.
Well, I appreciate the real life experience inside. We can't provide that, but it's also interesting to see some of the research is actually walking soccer. I never even heard of. That's the thing about this show is, we want people to know if you don't like, football or you can't play soccer, there are so many other sports out there and never give up. I did also find some research that in the UK, of course, football is soccer, but they actually have a whole entire tournament and a league. Maybe, Tim, we could get them on someday, but I've reached out before. But they actually have an entire league for people with Parkinson's, and the captain, everybody involved, I think, has been diagnosed. It's really beautiful what they've taken in other countries too and
cool.
turned around and created it. I don't think the world's aware, at least the US, and we need to bring more. I think here it is, UK Parkinson's football team. To everybody here, I already follow them, but maybe Tim wants to note it down. And then wanted to move some beautiful photos. I think this really portrays you might agree, your life and how beautiful it is and how the past, the present, I always say also the future, you're changing the lives of so many out there. I have a daughter. She wants to play volleyball, but, I think that all sports should be encouraged for girls. And we have a lot in common. I actually was a professor for VCU for 15, 20 years for Homeland Security, but virtual, so we never would have run into each other. I also hope that everybody out there will support the coach and I'm going to share these links so if you're listening, you don't have to write them down. But I love how active you are on social media from LinkedIn. Here we have Instagram, your beautiful family, which hope it's okay to share all these things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then also X, which is very important, and did a live. We just followed. We want every one of our fans, every one of our viewers and our guests to have 1 million views. So please support the coach. Also, one new thing, if it's okay with Tim, I tried to start on my show, but we recently released a book called Sports, Exercise, and Slowing the Progression. And Tim knows I don't want the money, even though my wife yells at me, stop saying it because you don't need to say it. But in 2025, that's why we do this for awareness. But if anyone listening or shares this, purchases this, all the proceeds we'll send to the coach literally. If you just please put his name. If you want to just put coach, it's fine. Or coach, Marty will know who it goes to. So this is a new thing I'm trying just because we want
Great.
awareness, but I would love to help every person out there, coach or anyone out there, to never really have to pay for medicines ever again, or never have to be burdened by our system here in the US, which Tim and I hopefully in DC in September will fight for. But it's been such an honor. I wanted to send for the wrap up of the show to my co-host Tim, who again I'm so sad every time we come closer to the show ending, because it's an honor to be with all both of you, and I just learned so much from these shows, and think that's what it's about. I might have a lot of degrees and my own experience, but without continual learning as a student, or even as a one of your trainees or players, you got to keep learning. I think
Absolutely.
forever you're missing something. So thank you, Coach, for your time. It's an honor, and I hope this is the start of a beautiful relationship. And I wanted to send it again to Tim for a wrap up.
I cannot thank Coach enough. Like I said in the opening, you could catch him at Elevate Others. And it's not just a phrase, it's not just a word. This man is active. With his crazy schedule, he finds a way to elevate others and inspire others. It's truly amazing. And I appreciate his friendship. And I can't wait to have him on again. And listen, I always talk about cognitive sides of Parkinson's. Soccer is a beautiful game. Even if you can't play it, watch it. It's like, to me, it's like baseball. It's a thinking man's game. You're going to open spaces and the fluidity. There's something beautiful about the sport and watching it, just from a cognitive standpoint and an enjoyment standpoint. Everybody who watches the show knows I always try and close the show out with like a famous phrase. I found two soccer ones. One's famous, one's not. The great Pele. The more difficult the victory, the greater the happiness is in winning. Nothing's easy. The harder you work, the better the reward. And that applies to Parkinson's. And I'm also going to quote my middle son's goalkeeper. He's not famous at all, but his goalkeeper coach always used to tell him in Spanish, your best decision is your first decision. In other words, more is lost with indecision. As a goalkeeper, either come out or stay back. Don't get caught in the middle. And the way I say that it relates to Parkinson's is, even if you've been diagnosed, don't sit around and do nothing. Educate yourself, make a move, get out, get physical, read a book, watch a podcast, but don't be indecisive. Sitting around and doing nothing with this disease is the number one enemy. You can't do it.
And I thank you guys so much for having me on, and I could not agree more, Tim, about educating yourself through various measures. That's what we all had to do. Our neurologists are great people, but we only see them once a year or once every 6 months. So we got to put it upon ourselves to advocate for ourselves and do the research to be educated. And once again, George and Tim, I can't thank you guys enough for what you guys do in the Parkinson's community, for advocating for us. I greatly appreciate both of you.
We'll see you, Coach.
Before we wrap up, I actually wanted to mention something, and we'll have to do another show on it. But Tim, I wanted to also have everyone out there support Tim, my PD party, but more importantly, all the work he's doing with soccer. That was the inspiration for the show, and I'm glad we had the coach here, which was amazing. But maybe, Tim, even for a minute, you touch on the beautiful event that you actually were invited to, Michael J. Fox event, which was beautiful, called, well, you'll talk more about it, but the Team Fox MVP. Hope someday again to join you, but I really want to shed some light and help support Tim, because next year he'll be right back at it, sweating out there. I hope someday I'm going to literally have to fly down for a day again to help.
I could have used more help, George. What we did was we hosted a soccer tournament. I mean, listen, when my kids were growing up, I played every sport but soccer. So, of course, what do they play? Soccer. So when it was time to fundraise, that's what I knew, because, Coach, I'm sure like, I was one of those dads at the field, traveling the country, standing at a soccer tournament saying, well, that sucks, but that's good, and ways I can improve a soccer tournament. So when it was time to fundraise, I said, let me throw a soccer tournament. I would say most of the lower level, like rec soccer tournaments, are probably consist of like 60 to 80 teams. We were blessed to have close to 160.
Wow.
Which was amazing. Because what I did was I waited to right before Thanksgiving, when everybody's season ends and they're all scratching, like, oh, I wish I had one more game. So it was great because everybody made it, but it was like tents were flying up in the air like Wizard of Oz. But we raised a lot of money, and it was for a great cause, and it spread awareness, which ultimately at the end of the day is what we're here to do. So it was so much fun.
That's awesome.
I appreciate you bringing that up, but I guess closer to the event, I think we would do a whole
Yeah.
show on Team Fox and try to help raise money for that. So again, I want to thank the coach for your time. Please support him, and we'll definitely be doing that 24/7, 365 days a year. And thanks again to Tim, my co-host. Please find him at my PD party where he, doesn't really ask for it, which I'm gonna, but please support him because that's what we're here for. For me, you don't have to do anything. Just, I really want the show to be out there. We've had some incredible guests, celebrities, coaches, and it's really the real people like you all who listen to battling this disease and the families that we do this for. We really don't want anything else but awareness. And we're going to take the show to Washington, D.C. in September, I think. I don't know how we'll do, maybe on cell phones, but it'll be interesting. So once again, this wraps up another beautiful episode and celebrating almost a year of the show. This has been, I think we're almost up to 15 episodes. Before you know, we'll be up to, 50, then 100, and hopefully we'll have a cure before, and this will become a show about sports and not, having to battle PD. But until that day, until the cure is at everybody's doorstep around the world, we keep fighting together. So this has been another episode of All-Star PD Sportscast. Your host, Tim. I'm George Sharonson, and the coach has been really honored to have him with us today. This is the show again where we discuss the world of sports, slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease, but more importantly, like we said, we try to cover different sports. So if one isn't really something you might be able to participate, I know some people were worried about boxing because they don't want to get punched in the face. And as you know, there's rock steady boxing where you don't get punched in the face. There's soccer, there's walking soccer now I learned. So you got to just take one thing of one lesson a day. And I don't want to ruin Tim's beautiful quotes because they're better than mine, but never stop. We won't. We'll always be by your side until the day there's a cure. So we love you all, and thanks, Tim. Thanks, Coach. We love you.
Thank you, George. Love you guys.
See you guys.